Sweet. Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry with the Blue Collar Nation podcast. And I'm here with my nomad business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague. What's happening, Mr. Tech Whisperer?
I'm trying not to be nomadic, but you keep putting me on the road.
Put them on the road. Go meet people. We're sitting in a potential client's office right now. And we're working it in odd ways.
I'm an HVAC company in Maine right now as we speak.
Yep.
They're generous enough to lend me an office. So
yes. And I paid him off earlier because he's been a little grumpy. So I sent them a check so that they'd be patient with him. So we're doing great.
Oh, is that why everyone's being so nice?
Yes, that's exactly why. Just so we know.
All right.
Anyway, we got a sponsor to this podcast, don't we, Eric?
We do. It's Michelle Blevins with CNR who's going to tell everybody about our sponsor.
And here we go. And anyway, we have a killer podcast today, and we're very excited. We have gentlemen from Free2Grow, which is an amazing company we'll get into. They do all the back out office tasks so that you can work on your business. We have Charlie Felker here. He is an Army veteran, 82nd Airborne Division, 3rd Ranger Battalion, which is really cool, something to brag about. And then we have his business partner, Nathan Keller, who's a sales leader with startups in St. Louis. He's been in the energy sector. He's worked for Oracle. These guys are smart and on the ball. And Eric, we are happy to have them together with us today.
Sorry,
that's our clap track.
I can't clap as loud as I normally would because there's all kinds of people outside.
Yeah, so don't get them too excited. How are you, gentlemen?
We're great, Larry and Eric. Thrilled to be here. We love your energy. It was just a pleasure meeting you both at the True Grit event in March in Vegas.
Yeah, we were just talking, Charlie, off camera before we started that you met Larry and I at our absolute worst. Larry was a broken man with a broken pelvis in 3 places. I was on the heels of weeks of COVID, and somehow you still agreed to come on the show and seem like you somewhat like us. So thank you.
Well, we got a lot of quality time together. I know our booths were adjacent. So, you guys obviously have a great business in a complementary space, and thrilled to be on and chatting with you further. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sounds like you guys couldn't run away from Charlie either at the time.
So. I had you.
I couldn't get real far.
They gave us a booth space, Nathan, right next to Charlie. And, if we're going to man our booth, we got to deal with him.
Yeah.
Getting around it. So, well, guys, let's get into a little bit of Free2Grow. Like, how did you come up with the idea? How did it start? What's the, the kind of incubation period of this?
Yeah, so we built a nice niche little business. Nathan and I grew up together, have been lifelong friends. And about 3.5 years ago, we were both kind of in a career transition. I was actually selling my home service company. I was used to do a business doing aging in place, and you think about seniors who want to live at home with the stair lifts and door widenings and walk-in showers and all that stuff. So I had a neat little company. Sold that in 2019, and Nate and I were seeing more of each other and kind of formulated this idea based on some kind of real world experience that a lot of home service companies don't need a full-time CSR. I'm sure we'll get into it on this conversation about there's a lot of daily tasks that have to be done, answering the phone, following up with leads, CRM management. And so we're like, you know what? Based on my experience, I went through 4 or 5 CSRs in a span of 2 years. And when you sell your company, you typically look back and like, how could I have been more efficient and, had a better P&L and generated more cash, yet at the same time been more efficient with who we did have in systems and technology. And so Free2Grow was born. Started late in 2019, and we've now coming up on 12 employees and really focused on a select number of trade businesses, namely HVAC, plumbing, electrical, tree care, garage door. The suite that you see at a True Grit or a Service MVP, that's our bread and butter. And so we have a really competent team that all goes through Joe's training. We're big points of training. And so at the end of the day, we're doing all that blocking and tackling, answering the phone on the inbound and outbound side, taking customer data, we're total pros at all the CRMs out there, the service titans, the the jobbers, the house call pros. There's a litany of them, and we know them all. And then on the outbound side, the happy calls, lead follow-up, soliciting reviews. And then there's always these gray areas of communicating with technicians. We do that via Slack or outreach. And so we're really trying to build a team of 2 to 3 CSRs per customer. And so they know that even if one person's out sick, they're still going to be covered, and we're going to get smarter with their business as the relationship develops. So we got a neat little model, and it's working, and we're getting smarter on technology and systems and SOPs, every month. So
That's cool, man. So what year did you guys start?
We started at the end of 2019. And, like any startup, we've stubbed our toe a couple hundred times. We used to kind of approach all home service. And as we said, where is our value with customers? I mean, it's really being really good on the phone, scheduling leads and estimates, quick follow-up, exceptional high-level CSR service. And so we found that those trades really, really appreciate that more than some. The ticket price is high. When we have a really good call, we can book it, they can get out there and sell it. And so the whole customer experience is, we can kind of demonstrate our value to our clients. But late 2019 and learned a lot along the way and like where we're going.
Cool. Let's get into this a little bit. Larry and I believe, and we've learned this the hard way, that more money is won and lost on the phone in a home service business than like anywhere else. And yet very few people want to take the time to train. And I think a lot of times that really just boils down to the owner probably started as a technician and doesn't feel particularly well suited to train anyway. Right.
Nor do they think they are, and definitely they're not.
Yeah.
Which comes to
I mean, we didn't know how to train a CSR. Right.
Yeah, I think it's pretty rare that you find the technician that actually has the same skill set as a CSR or even a good outbound salesperson or anything like that too, right? They're normally they're the nuts and bolts. Hey, this is what I'm going to do for you and help you out, but they're not going to actually sell it that way either, right? They're just going to say, hey, yep, that's what you need, and leave it there, right? And that's where I think we take an extra step, especially with any of our CSRs that are working for our customers, right? They're required to go through training prior. They all have customer service background, and now we're specifically hiring people that have trades background. But still, I don't care how long they've been in the business, gone through training, what other training it is. We make sure we're very process oriented. And part of that process is going through the same training that everybody goes through, right? So we have that same pattern across all customers.
So Nathan, what's the training look like? Like if I started tomorrow to become a CSR for you guys, what's that look like for me?
So right out of the gate, they have to get certified on our phone system, right? As far as how things are coming in, how everything, kind of the more technical aspect of that. They do shadowing with our senior account managers, our senior reps. And then they're going through service MVP, customer service boot camp training at the same time. So their days are blocked out exactly like that. They'll have a couple hours here where they're doing training. They'll have a couple hours where they're doing shadowing. They start learning about accounts. Our senior ops manager gets them into all the SOPs that they might be working in, so they understand. But a lot of it is through that mirroring of whatever's going on, hearing live calls for every single account that they may get in. So
yeah, no, that's cool. Why do you think most people place such a low value on that position?
You know what? I don't know that they necessarily place a low value on it. I think it's one that gets overlooked when you get busy, right? As a smaller company, as a growing company, you don't understand the actual importance of it until it's almost too late, right? You're putting all your money in marketing and trying to get the phone to ring. And if the owner's taking the call, or the owner's family member, whoever that might be taking the call, making that next step to say, okay, I got to actually go hire someone to do this. Or I might have to hire someone and actually pay to train. They're not they're not taking that and understanding, okay, if I pay a few $1,000s to get this person trained up, they're really good at what they do. I motivate them the right way, and they are able to book as many estimates for me as I can possibly fit in a day. That pays off exponentially. They're not equating that. They're just seeing it as more of the task oriented side of what they're doing, not what those tasks are actually building up to.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems like when Larry and I meet a lot of home service companies, and we kind of did this in the early days too, and it's like, yeah, just get somebody to answer the phone. It'll be okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, because the owner's doing it, they don't think that it's that hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start listening to the calls and they realize how hard it is to do if you stop and listen to the calls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many of your clients want to listen to the calls?
Almost all.
I wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Almost all of them actually go through and they'll spot check ours. I spot check ours, right? Our senior ops guy.
Okay.
But
Well, I was never the guy to listen to them. So that's where we were coming from.
a lot of the owners now are wanting, at least right out, it's a big decision, right? To take this responsibility out of, someone that's in their office. But again, we're providing the security of, hey, you're never, that person's never going to be sick because we have backups for everybody that works with us. So, but taking that responsibility out of the office and outsourcing it, which I'm not a huge fan of the word, but outsourcing it to us is it can be scary for them. So a lot of them will listen to calls.
Yeah, I guess they listen to, but I guess I was thinking in the beginning, you have somebody working for you, you're not going to be checking on them, and you realize the importance of it, that it's that important, that every call has a dollar value to it. Mm-hmm. And some are dramatically high. We lost a couple. I mean, the average restoration job was, $3,500. Mm-hmm. And if we missed that call, it's right out the window.
Right. Well, and that was deeper, because if you have a referral source like a plumber who's feeding you lots of those jobs, and you screw one up on the phone, you might lose the referral partner, and that could be millions of dollars over a few years.
Lots of money.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that used to make me a little crazy when that would happen, and the plumber would call me, "Hey man, I called you. You guys didn't call me back. You didn't answer."
So you guys want to hear? You want to hear our CSR nightmare story?
You've been waiting.
So we were really growing quickly, and Larry was the CSR at the beginning, which Larry is good on the phone, but it's that owner who, like, we need that money. We're not going to let any calls go. We're going to make sure we're there, whatever. So we hired a CSR, and she was with us for 6 or 7 years. Great person, but not of a mindset. And look, a lot of this is our own fault. We didn't do a lot of training. We didn't give a lot of why. So, I used to do a lot of estimates, and I just realized, like, man, like, my estimates are way down. Like, why don't we have estimates? And I'm looking at our marketing spend, and I'm like, our marketing spend's actually higher than it's ever been, right? And I'm like, normally my day's full of estimate after estimate, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I decided, in our software, you could listen to the calls. I'm like, I'm going to listen to, I don't even know what prompted me to listen to the calls. I'm like, I'm going to listen to some calls. So I started listening to a few calls, and the CSR is like, hey, we're like 6 weeks out. We were like not 6 weeks out. We were like 2 days out,
Yeah.
And then another call would come in like, well, we're really busy. I don't know when we're going to be able to get to you. I'll call you if we're, she's just like deflecting the work. Right. And my blood is now boiling as I'm listening to these calls, and call after call after call, she's kind of picking and choosing which ones to take on. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And so, the next day when we let her go, I was like, what gives? And what happened was her husband worked for us as a technician, and all his friends worked for us, and she didn't want them to be too tired.
Yeah. That's when we got Eric's wife, Yana, and she was our star for years. Now she trains all of the CSRs for us.
But right after we let the other person go, I called my wife, who was a school teacher, and I was like, hey, I really need you to answer the phones. And how many times have you heard that, right? And she was like, I don't want to answer the phones for your company. I'm a school teacher. And I'm like, I really need, Larry, and I really need you to.
Not anymore.
And I didn't say that. And she's
I
like,
know you did. You were thinking it the whole time, though.
I did. And she's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, just be nice and get me to the front door. That's it. Get us, an estimator to the front door. And that's all I care about. So the first day, like she's like 3 hours in. So it's like 11 a.m. and she calls me crying. And it's like, I can't do this. I suck at this, like there's no way. I'm just, you got to find somebody. And I'm like, whoa, like, what's wrong? And she's like, well, I'm not very good. Like, well, define not very good. And she's, well, I don't think I have that many estimates for you yet. And I'm like, well, how many have you booked? And she's like, only 11.
Yeah. Yeah. 11
Yeah.
more than 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
I was like, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then, she started getting really into it and then realizing like, okay, like what are my strategies? How can I get the most estimates and how can I turn somebody who just wants a price? And she started really like taking it on. And that's when Larry and I, like the light bulb went off and we're like, oh my gosh, for the last 6 years, we just weren't thinking this way. This is the point. I'm leading back to where you guys are. It's like, you have to have somebody, and then, whether it's insourced or outsourced, that's thinking this way.
Yeah, you do. It's not a more unique personality type, but you do have to have the right personality type. That one, they care about the customer, right? In fact, our customer's customer, right? They hear someone more often than not. The calls that we're getting are people that are not happy, right? Their AC just went out, something along those lines. So you have to have someone that really grasps that concept, but at the same time, them understanding, okay, I get someone out there, chances are that's going to continue to help this business grow, and they understand kind of where the flow is there. And then there's almost a competitive nature to it, right? Of finding someone that actually is like, okay, I'm gonna do better the next time. They have kind of like an athlete where you have a short memory, right? If something, no matter what the call's like before that, great or terrible because it happens, right? The next one's the next one, right? And that's it.
Totally.
And, but having that same kind of, we always say kind of here's a smile over the phone, right? Every single time, right?
Yeah.
Eric, your story is our pitch. We get a lot of technician owner operators that want to go sell jobs and be out there. And then we're like, okay, let us be your full-time focus on this back office stuff. That's our full-time profession. You started this company to go grow it, sell it down the road, whatever. Let us handle this one little piece for you and watch the data, watch the calls, listen, train, all the above. So when we get a testimonial saying, you know what, I've grown quarter over quarter, have my best, trailing 12 months because I've been able to go out and do more evals and estimates and sell more jobs, we're like, mission accomplished. So.
Oh, that's great. I mean, in hindsight, we might have subbed out a lot more things that were an expense to us. We think about all the time, like, maybe we should have been doing this or that, just because we see so many companies, and it's different looking, into a company as opposed to being in it. And what you guys offer.
I think it was two things on our end, and I think this addresses maybe some of the people that might have objections as you speak with them. A lot of us, a lot of the owners are a little older, so they think in a traditional way. I have to have a building, I have to have a CSR, I have to have a dispatcher right in front of me, right? And I think Larry and I probably fell victim to that. And then I think also when Larry and I were doing this, there weren't as many companies like yours doing this. It wasn't as prevalent. So I think the first thing, overcoming
technology, so many things. Yeah.
Overcoming that traditional mindset of like, no, I got to fill my building with people that I can control.
Yeah.
But you have actual no control because you're out in the field. And, that was the issue. Like, I was never in the office. So how would I hear if she's trying to give jobs away?
Yeah.
Not there.
Yeah.
So what are the things you guys, go ahead, Charlie. I'm sorry.
Now we know the famous story.
Yeah. Craziness.
That was probably like.
So do you guys do other back office tasks besides just the calling, or do you guys do other things as well?
You know what? It's we really stick to that customer experience side. You know, aside from the inbound calls, we will, as Charlie mentioned earlier, doing the outbounds as far as we'll check in on estimates,
Follow-ups.
rehashing, saying, okay, we're not, you know, we're never going to be the salesperson, but say, hey, you know, we were out there a while ago. Do you want to schedule another appointment? Do you have any questions for, you know, your estimate or anything like that? And then doing happy calls as well, right? Checking in on the jobs and soliciting for reviews. So.
No,
So-
that's great. And that helps so much. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, let's get into, we'll talk about your company a little more, but I'd like to, like, in broader strokes, like, what makes a good CSR? Like, what are the quality? Nathan, you had kind of mentioned they have to be kind of wired a certain way. Well, let's go deeper on that. Like, who's a good CSR?
I think someone that, you know, I take if I took a cross section of everybody that we have, and there's all different personality types. We have some absolute just, I don't want to say bulldogs, but they're kind of bulldogs, right? Where they are really good at booking as soon as it comes in. If they don't get it booked, they'll actually give it a minute and call back and see if they can. And they just book a ton of calls. And then we have the ones that are super soft on the phone, but really good with the very annoyed customers, right? And they can diffuse things very, very easily. So you're kind of looking for a mix of that. But I think no matter what, on the back end, you want someone that's going to constantly understand, you know, they need to be coachable, right? And they need to be open to the training. I can tell you right now, and I said this to I think I was on Joe's podcast. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but as soon as we signed up for training with Joe, I knew right out of the gate we were going to lose 2 people, and I knew who they were going to be. Knew exactly as soon as we said, hey, we have mandatory training, customer service training, and these are people that have been with us for a while. I called it, and sure enough, we put it in place. A week later, we got notice for both. And independently, probably within 5 days of each other, though. So you have
They just weren't bought in.
They thought, they were under the impression that they were doing fine, doing what they're doing, right, and that there's no room for improvement. And that's a problem. Is when there's no one that's sitting there going, oh, nope, I'm good. I don't need training. I know what I'm doing. I'm great. That's an issue. And you know, it was good for us to kind of go through that, right? It sucks to lose 2 people, and they were okay with what they did. This would have made them a lot better. But at the same time, you have to have people that are open to improvement. You know, I only want to say constructive criticism. I mean, actually open and wanting to get better at what they do. You know, and on top of that, I think from our side, we used to hire a lot of generalists. And now we're very focused on hiring people that have some sort of trade experience, right? We have one guy that actually was out in the field, and he's now a remote customer service rep with us, and he's doing a great job, but he knows the language and everything else. But he has a competitive nature to him. No matter what, coachable, and understanding that, hey, my job is to help these companies grow, right? That's what we're here to do.
So let's talk about your company a little bit. You know, basically we're outsourcing CSR duties. So what kind of companies does that look like? And how does that look like for a company? What are the companies that it best is suited for?
So
and maybe what kind of companies is it not a good fit for?
I would say, you know, we used to work with a lot more. We used to do some in lawn care, and lawn care is not necessarily a good fit for us at all, right? When Charlie was saying earlier about how we used to work with anybody and everybody, we're just kind of this wide shotgun approach to trying to take on any business we could.
So, like, why would lawn care, Nathan, be like not a great fit?
I think the volume that they have to maintain, and it is purely, in a lot of regions, it seems to be just a race from a pricing perspective, right? There's some that pay a lot more because of whatever reason, but general broad strokes, it's a very super competitive. The level of customer service they don't necessarily care about, because they're just trying to get as many jobs in as a day as they possibly can. And because they're not making that much in a lot of ways. You know, as we've grown up and grown as a company and said, okay, we want to go with customers that have, you know, a higher ticket, that are providing more value. I would say our customers that we work with, if they're the cheapest in their market, we're probably still not a good fit for them, right? We want the ones that are going based on quality and speed to get out there and everything like that, because that's where we're tailored to from a training perspective. So you asked about, the types of companies that are good for us or good fits for us. I would say doing $1 million plus in revenue. We have customers in that area that we're the sole provider, right? We're the soup to nuts customer service. And then when you go up from there are some out there, and this is more prevalent now than it was a year ago for us, where they have a customer service team, and we work in a couple different capacities. We're either overflow, so they get busy and we have calls, fall over to us, but we're still capable of doing exactly what they're doing. Or they are taking that position, that customer service position, and repurposing it because they have a very good CSR that they don't want to lose because they're not moving up the ladder within the company, right? And they're going to move that person to a different role, be it, speaking to vendors or more of a dispatcher type role or whatever that is. And then that person becomes the point of contact for us, and they kind of help direct our relationship with that business.
So if I decided tomorrow that I wanted to use you guys, like, what's the onboarding look like? What's the process look like? Like, how's it work?
Good question. So our onboarding typically takes 2 to 3 weeks. We take our time. We do not want to rush things. We want to make sure that we have as much knowledge as we possibly can, understanding that even when we make that decision on, hey, we're going to flip the phones over this day, we're still not going to have everything, right? But we want to have as much documentation and training and potential role playing and that sort of thing as done as possible prior to that switch over. There's a lot of competitors of ours out there. And then, unfortunately we get put in that call center space, and we do much, much more than a call center, that think we are just that. And it's going to be a light switch. And all of a sudden, hey, I call you on Tuesday, by Thursday, you need to be handling my calls. We've tried to do that in the past. It doesn't work. It's a short-term relationship. And yeah, we don't, anybody that asks for that now, we just kind of wish them luck. So
is it 24/7? Like, if Larry and I were a restoration company wanted to do it, it'd have to be all the time. Like, so are there hours for you guys, or?
So we have a 24/7 component. All right. So our folks who are highly trained and they are on during business hours, all the way up till 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then after that, we do have a partner that we leverage that is a US based call center that we vetted very, very thoroughly, that they help with that after hours. But we do have certain technologies in place to say, okay, if there's an after hours call that comes in, we can put that exactly where you guys need to see it, and we can escalate that up if need be. We have one company, we have probably, I think, 3 or 4 different Slack channels with them where they have different territories, business hours, emergency per territory, everything else. And we have it coordinated in such a way where at this time, this message for this zip code will go in this channel. And then their after hours or their on-call dispatcher or on-call tech will actually see that and just respond to it.
Okay. So I'm sure you have many success stories. Maybe to give an example of how this has affected some companies, maybe if you could give me an example of a company, you don't have to name them, but just like how it impacted their business in a positive manner.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a West Point graduate. We got a call from another West Point graduate, Kevin Long, who runs probably a $1 billion plus HVAC business in Alabama. And when he came on, he had 2 technicians, was doing everything up until 10 o'clock at night. I mean, for those owner operators out there, you kind of know the feeling, and pride swallowing. He's selling, he's installing, he's doing HR, he's washing the bottles in the back and all that stuff. So this was probably a couple years ago, and fast forward to today, he just hired his 7th technician. He's removed himself. We're not seeing him in Slack nearly as much. Can kind of delegate. We've integrated. We've kind of launched our call by call model with him. So we're his sole provider on the CSR side. Clearly his business is growing. He seems very happy. growing as he wanted to grow. He wanted to manage a team and build technicians and train and kind of dominate his local market. And I think he's probably done that. So that's a great little case study for us. And again, he's got a small team that's been with him since the beginning, 2 or 3 people that, recognize customer names, know his CRM, know how he wants us to answer the phone and schedule. And we know the technicians. So there's certainly a family component there that plays really well. And so it's not like a call's coming in, it's going to a bank of 50 people.
Yeah. I didn't really touch on that part. We limit how many folks are going to be in any sort of account based on the size of that account, obviously. But, just so we're, if you have a customer calling and they were talking to Jess, who's with us, but representing whatever company, and now she's on the line with somebody else, and that customer calls back and says, "Oh, I was talking to Jess." Monica can either take that call and tell them, "Oh, well, I can put you on hold until Jess is available," or, "Hey, I have all the notes right here," because she documented everything the way she was supposed to, and Monica can take it from there. But it's never going to go outside those probably 5 at most people that would be in an account.
Yeah, I think that's what the fear is for a lot of owners, that they don't want it to, they're not a big corporation, they're a local service business, and they want it to feel like a local service business.
Yep.
Yeah. So even, technology is a big part of this space that we're in. And so AI is not some big secret. And we've put a pretty cool platform in place through Slack, where to avoid those kind of pauses in the phone, like, okay, do you guys service this area or this? And if you don't know the area, that can be a pause. So we upload all the customer SOPs, scheduling, zip codes, all that stuff into an AI Slack bot. And so we can get those answers very quickly. And, our average handle time has gone way down, even though our calls have gone way up. And so we're cutting down on those pauses in those phone conversations through AI, which has been great. So again, there's technology that can make the owners feel like, yes, okay, they get it. They know my zip codes, and, you avoid those kind of awkward pauses.
It's nice when you have that, because we all call into different places, and I always say, are you guys a service? And you can kind of tell, or, is this, am I calling the actual office? And then you get a vibe of it. And sometimes, they're more capable if you're talking to the office sometimes, but then many times you talk, a company like yours, and they're very capable of communicating and, making it feel like a customer service experience, which is super important.
So I didn't ask the question, Nathan. I think you might have mentioned it, but I think another concern that a lot of owners have is are they US based CSRs, right? Like, look, we've all had customer service experiences with different countries that don't go well because there's just too much cultural or language barrier.
Yep. We've, we attempted that about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, just from an overflow perspective. We had a couple folks that were offshore in the Philippines, and they were great folks, but no matter what, there was no accent difference. But no matter what, there's just there's stuff that gets lost in translation.
Cultural,
totally. Even just a terminology, whatever that might be. And they were working primarily with a franchise that we were working with at the time, and it just didn't work. And then from there on, we just said, what, we're going to be a US based employer now.
Yeah, for the people calling in, I think it just makes their life easier. And if you're in a service business, it's the best service is having native speakers, probably.
Yep.
I think. Yeah. Okay. So what industries are you doing? Plumbing, HVAC, electrical,
garage.
What was the other one?
Garage door. And then, we've got some legacy customers, and, in the window industry and others that have been with us a long time that will stay with us forever. But that's our focus, Eric. Yeah.
Restorers?
No, not yet. We're so focused on getting as best as possible in these select number of industries. But, if somebody calls in, listens to the podcast, or calls in from a different industry, we've onboarded a couple this week and next week that are not in that core 4 or 5 that seem to be good fits and good culture and understand our value add, and we'll take our time on onboarding, and we can build a team around them.
Yeah.
So those one-offs do work out.
So really, you guys are kind of interviewing the client as well. It's a two-way street to make sure that they're going to
Very much.
look. You want them to be successful, and what's the point of bringing them on if it's going to not be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big part of that. As soon as we, during the sales process, if any point we have a feeling that we're a Band-Aid, right, of until they find another rep that the manager's lost,
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
that ends conversations pretty quick with us, because we're in this to be partners with our customers, right? Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to ask the question that I probably should ask more often: is, are we missing anything? Did Larry and I ask you, have we missed things that we just don't understand that you think everybody
Yeah, about your industry.
I think sometimes it makes total sense to hire in-house and sometimes it doesn't. And I think, like Nathan said, there's some in between. I think with technology and, working remote is now, relatively popular and common. I can see more and more businesses going this way. Having an outsourced option that they don't have to worry about, that can schedule jobs from remote locations and do it well and eloquently with good service and good technology and track all that stuff. I think people track us more closely than they track their in-house CSRs, candidly. So we've got to be on,
isn't it?
we've got to be on the ball consistently with, okay, we missed a call. Who's got it? How much have we produced? We're going to build some software that can kind of demonstrate our efficiency, but that's definitely a reality. I bet a lot of the owner operators who didn't listen to their CSR calls when it was in-house are listening to our calls. I would say that pretty confidently. And that's okay. So we like that kind of oversight.
Very ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That would have been us.
That would have been me. Eric was listening to the call sometimes. I would never watch. But if I was paying for it, outsourcing it, which is so ironic because we're paying for the person in a payroll anyway. Yeah, you're paying one way or another, but it's a control thing. And I'm that typical guy that would be like, hey, what are they doing over there? Make sure they're doing it right. But if you're doing it right, you're all set.
You knew and liked the CSR as a person in-house, so you're going to give that person the benefit of the doubt.
There you go.
Pretty much.
Somebody you don't know, so it's just a business transaction. I need to watch that.
Yeah. That's why Slack helps, because they can see what's going on throughout the day, and other technologies we're working on will help with that, because clearly we're producing for our clients.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do people start if they're interested and they want to get more info and they're like, I'm in? Like, how does it go?
Yeah,
How does it work?
We'll talk to everybody, especially owner operators. We love those conversations, whether they work with us or not. It's kind of good to see what people are doing. Got a great website, free2grow.com. Our contact info is on there, and reach out and we'll get back to you quickly. And we're open book on how we operate and take things pretty slow.
That's awesome. Well, I encourage everybody listening to, if they are in need of some CSR help, you should reach out. And Charlie and Nathan, I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
We loved it. Do we get to clap at the end too?
Yeah, let's all clap.
Sure. Hey, if we had a beer, we'd cheers.
Yeah.
I'm not yelling quite as much as I used to normally, because I'm on the road and I don't know if they'll.
Right. Who's listening?
They might hate me here if I do that. So.
No, I sent them that check. They're not going to hate you at all.
Okay. There we go. All right, guys. Thank you. That was awesome.
Gentlemen, pleasure. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
So,
you hit that button there, buddy?
No, it's